Okay, so as usual, I'm going to go through my art supplies first, just because there's always questions about those, and then we will get started on the painting. So again, you have another minute or two. The watercolor paper I'm going to be using is from the brand Fluid 100. It is 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I used a cold press finish. This is 140 pounds. Those are usually all the questions that I get about this paper. It's 6x8 as well. This is a good brand. It's not too expensive. It's available on Amazon as well. It's in my Amazon storefront if you're interested. And it's a watercolor block, which means the pages are bound together by glue on the long sides here, and then they are loose on the short sides, if you can see that there. So what this does is it just keeps it flat. It keeps it from warping so much, and I don't have to use tape to tape it down. So I like to use these blocks sometimes, especially for the paint and sips. And then once you're done with the painting, you just remove the top sheet and then you have another blank page. My watercolor paints are from Winsor&Newton. These are professional watercolor paints. You do not have to use professional watercolor paints. Whatever you have is going to work perfectly fine. I just kind of created this palette based on what I like to use, what colors I like to use. So it's kind of a custom palette. I just bought these little pans individually, and I've pretty much narrowed it down to the colors that I like. I might change it up a little bit here, but this is what I've used for a long time. And then my paint brushes are from Princeton Neptune. These are great brushes. I love them so much. They hold up really, really nice. I've had several of these for like 5 years now, and they don't lose their shape. They don't lose their bristles, and they just work great. So would recommend. And then this detail brush is from Christy Rice's Happy Painting set. She's another TikToker, and I got these brushes from her. So those are my supplies, and then as usual, cup of water, paper towels, pencil, all of that stuff. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do before we get started on our sketch is put a little bit of water into our watercolors here. And this is always the step that I recommend you start with, just because it helps those paints get dissolved and it makes it so much easier to work with them as you're painting. So I just use my paintbrush and drop a little drop of water into each color. You can also use a spray bottle if you are so inclined, but I just like the paintbrush, just easier for me. And we might not use every color, but it's good to have them ready just in case, you never know. Okay, so we're gonna let those soak. And then my usual kind of spiel before we get started is just to enjoy this little session. This is just an hour painting, so try not to put too much pressure on yourself to make like a perfect painting right now. This is just for practice and to kind of have fun and be together. So especially if you're new to watercolor, don't put your pressure on yourself. Just try to enjoy, try to learn something, and we're all gonna have fun. Be nice to yourself, be nice to people in the comments, be nice to me, and we will all have a good time. Okay. So let's get started with our sketch here. So I'm going to show you the reference photo. I'm going to show it to you for about 10 seconds. So you can take a screenshot if you want. If you want the reference photo for later, you're welcome to use it. This scene is from Whidbey Island in Washington State, and it's kind of from a ferry dock. So we have this line of trees here and the beach, and then a little piece of land out here, and then some water. So this is the landscape that we're going with today. I love painting these kinds of landscapes. This is one of my favorites. So again, feel free to take a screenshot. I'll hold it a little bit closer for you, so that you can refer to that later if you'd like to. You have like 5 more seconds to do it, and then we'll move on. I missed you too. All right. And then as we go, if you have any questions for me, please do feel free to drop them in the comments. I will try to get to all of my questions. Sometimes I do miss them because I'm painting and talking at the same time. So feel free to ask again if in a couple minutes if I don't answer. So let's first of all get started with our sketch here. So we're going to, actually, let me see if I can get the reference photo and my paper in the same frame here so you can see both. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do is just sketch out the main sections of this painting. So we have a horizon line here at this distant land section here. We've got a little cliff, we've got some trees, and a beach. So that's kind of those are kind of the main things. I'm going to start with this horizon line here where the trees and the beach meet, which is just a little bit over 1/3 of the way up the painting. So I'm going to start right about here, and just use the side of my pencil, go out about 3/4 of the way from the left. And from there we can create a little beach, so I'm gonna go down a little bit and then create just a little sliver of a beach section there. Then above that, I'm going to create this little cliff that's sitting here. There's a couple little kind of cliff sections. And then lightly, I'm just going to do kind of a squiggly line for where the tree line is. No details on the tree line there. It's just a little squiggly line. Okay. And then the last little thing that I'm going to sketch is the distant land there. So I'm going to go just a little bit up from where we were before. Try my best to draw a relatively straight line, and then another line that's a little bit wavy above it, like that. Okay, so that's really all we're going to sketch today. That's what that looks like for me. It doesn't have to look perfect right now. This is just a sketch, just to give us an idea of where we're going. So don't feel like it has to be perfect right now. So don't spend too much time on it, okay? All right. So finish that up, and then we will get started with mixing our first colors. So as usual with these paintings, we start from the top and we work our way down to the bottom. So that means we're going to fill in our sky section first, and then work towards the water, and then fill in the kind of foreground. Okay, so let's get started with our first painting. You can clear the comments by either holding down on the screen and saying clear display, or swiping left or right, and I don't remember which way it is, so you just try both. Okay. So the color that we need is a sky blue. I like to use ultramarine blue for my skies. That's just my favorite color to use. You can use whatever color you prefer. If you want to make a red sky, go for it. And let's keep this color pretty concentrated on our palette here. So add a little bit of water, but not too much. We still want a pretty strong color. So I'm going to swatch that for you. So pretty strong blue there, because we're going to do a wet on wet technique here. So we're putting water down on the paper, and then we are going to add this color in, and that means it gets diluted on the paper. So we want to make sure it's strong here so that it shows up as the right consistency on the paper. Okay. So with a clean, large brush, we are going to put a layer of water on the whole top half of this painting. I'm going to overlap the trees that I drew and then stop at this line that I drew for the distant land here. Okay, so I'm going to take my big brush and put down a layer of water. And I'm going to explain this and walk you through it. You will have a little bit of time after I'm done. So if you'd prefer to watch me or just like let me go first, you can. And you'll have time to catch up afterwards. So, layer of water overlapping that tree line a little bit. You can tilt your head and see the reflection of the light off of that water so you can see if you've missed any spots. And then immediately you're just going to go into your blue paint, start at the top, and just create some little shapes like this. Starting at the top, and then as your paintbrush runs out of paint, as you work your way down, just let it, don't go back to your paint, just let it run out and create those little shapes. Okay, if you're happy with how it looks, you can let it sit. If you want to, you can pick up your paper and tilt it a little bit, which is what I'm going to do, and it causes that paint to kind of run into those lighter spots, and it gives you a really nice soft blend, and it looks kind of like little distant clouds. There are no clouds in the reference photo, but I like to do these kind of slightly more dynamic skies. I think they just add a nice little background. The brush that I'm using right now is a Princeton Neptune 1/2-inch oval brush. I use it quite often for larger areas like this. So I'm just kind of slowly tilting my paper in a circle here, letting that paint blend softly with the open areas and with the water that was already on the paper. And whenever you feel like it's blended enough and you like how it looks, just lay it flat, and that will stop that blending process. Okay. How do you prevent the page from warping? You don't at a certain point. You can see my page is warped. It's separated from the watercolor block there. It's just what happens with watercolor paper. Some like higher quality paper, like 100% cotton paper like this one is, or just higher quality paper will warp less, but it still will warp. So you just have to accept that as something that happens, unfortunately. Okay, so I like how that's blended there. I'm gonna leave it flat. Another thing you can do while the painting is still wet is use a completely dry brush to create some little cloud shapes. And I'm just gonna kind of enhance the light spots that I have already and maybe create some little streaky clouds going up here. How do you get it flattened back down? So usually once the paper dries, once the painting dries, it flattens mostly back down. You can also press it between some heavy books for a night, or I've heard of using an iron on really low heat to flatten it out. You can do that, but usually it flattens enough just drying and, you know, just kind of sitting around being completely dry. Okay. So there's our little streaky clouds. Don't have it in me to paint along today, but I'm happy to watch you do your thing. Oh, good. That's all right. And this, I will mention that this live is being recorded, and it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, which is linked in my bio. It's also just Hannah MP. And so if you can't finish the painting today, or you want to try this again, or you miss a step or anything like that, you will be able to go and find this lesson on YouTube after we're done. Okay. Now, give me an update if you're painting along with me. If you need an extra minute or two, or if you're ready to move on, I will give you a second here, but we're gonna move on to the water pretty soon here. How do you clean brush in between colors? I have a cup of water here off camera, and I just use that to clean my brush. Good tempo, good, okay, good. Happy to hear that. Need more time for drying. So we're gonna move on to our next step. We'll have time to dry the sky. The sky will have time to air dry. We're not gonna paint right on top of it yet, so as long as you're done painting, we can move on. Okay. And yeah, so let's talk about what we're gonna do for the ocean section. So we're gonna use the same color that we just used for the sky as kind of the base color of our ocean section. And then we're gonna mix some additional colors to kind of add in there. And that is because we have a reflection here of the sky into the water. So we want to use a very similar color, but then we also have kind of a very loose reflection, I should say, of this land here in the water. So you can see kind of a brown and green color and some darker blues here as the reflection of this land. And then this color is more the color of the sky. So we're gonna start with this color and add in some darker blues and greens. Okay, done painting, good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. So you need that same color that you just used for the sky. We are gonna water it down just a little bit now. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this now because we're gonna do wet on dry now. So we're gonna paint on dry paper this time. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water. So now that color kind of looks like that, just a little bit more watered down. My sky came out absolutely amazing. Oh, good, I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, and then we need to mix kind of a darker bluish greenish. So I'm gonna use that sky color again and mix in a little bit of green. This is sap green here. And I'm just gonna do like a little at a time. And this will create kind of a dark bluish green. Okay, so that color looks like that. Then I'm gonna keep what I have on my brush and just kind of move it over here. So there's a little bit of this color into a new pan, plus some more green. And let's see, let's add a little bit of yellow ochre to that as well. So this is more of a muted green color. And I think that'll be good. Okay. Are we gonna mix another color here? Yeah, I think we will. So the last color that we're gonna mix is the sand color, and it's kind of a light purple, honestly. So I'm gonna mix together a little bit of red, some blue, and plenty of brown. And if you mix all of those colors together, you're gonna make a very dark purple. And what I'm gonna do is remove most of this because we want a very, very watered down kind of purplish brown here. So I'm going to keep removing paint until I can get, might add some yellow ochre to that as well. Ugh. There we go. Okay. It's just kind of like a brown, purplish brown color. And very watered down. So something like that. That's going to be our sand color. So again, we have our sky blue here, whatever color you used for the sky, that's what it's going to be. The next color was this darker bluish green, so the sky color plus green. Then a little bit of that plus a little bit more green creates this green color. And then this one was kind of a mix of red, blue, and yellow and brown until you just get kind of a brown color here and water it down. So I'll go through that one more time. Sky blue color plus green, this color plus more green, and then red, blue, yellow, brown. A watercolor paint or solid block color, you're seeing liquid already. Yeah, so that was why we put some water in our palette when we first started painting, or before we even started painting. You put some water in each of the colors, and it lets them dissolve, and it makes it way easier to paint. So would recommend doing that before you start painting. Just helps with the whole watercolor process. Okay, so we're gonna put these colors on this painting in a certain order, and I'm gonna kind of show you what we're gonna do here. So feel free to just watch, and then I will give you some time afterwards. So we're gonna go in order of these colors that I mixed them in. I'm gonna start with this sky blue color, and we're gonna put this at the horizon line and just kind of on the right side of the painting to the right of this, of our trees here. So I'm gonna start with that. Create just a little bit of a horizon line here, paint around the little beach that we had, and then put this color in. I'm using horizontal brush strokes here. That is important for things to look like water. Okay. Next, I'm going to switch to my, and actually, sorry, hang on. I'm going to take this sky blue color just a little bit all the way across the bottom here too. All right. Now I'm going to take this blue-green color that we mixed, put that here, mix that in with that sky blue color, almost all the way up to the beach here. Again, using horizontal brush strokes here so that it looks like water. Once we get almost to the beach, so that line that I have there, I'm going to switch to my green color, put that in. Again, you have to do this all at once, so that's why I'm not stopping between any of these instructions, because you need all these colors to mix together. So you just have to kind of figure this part out as it goes. Okay, again, using horizontal strokes to kind of blend those together. And then finally, switching to the sand color that we mixed and putting that in on the beach, blending it a little bit with the green. And this is just the first layer on the water section here, so don't worry about what it looks like right now. It's gonna look like a hot mess, but we're gonna fix it later. Okay, so give that a try. I'm gonna explain what that was again. It was the sky blue color here on the right side of the painting, and then a little bit underneath everything. Then that blue-green color that we mixed, then the green, then the sand color as you move up towards the beach. I've got some paint kind of collecting here on the side, so I'm just using a completely dry brush and taking away the extra paint that's kind of forming there. That will help you not get so much texture in areas where that paint is drying. Okay. Again, this is the ugly stage. This is not how it's gonna look when it's done. We're gonna pull this thing back from the ugly stage. Okay, so let that dry. And then in a minute or two, we will go ahead and move on. Now seems like a good time to just do my usual plugs. So if you are enjoying this paint and sip and you'd like to support me in any way, that is always super appreciated. I am a full-time artist, which means I rely on fun and lovely people like you to support me in whatever way you feel like you can. So if you go to the link in my bio, my link tree, and you click on it, right below the little description in there, there will be these 5 symbols. So the first one is my YouTube channel. If you want to go check that out, you can subscribe. All of the previous paint and sips that I've done are uploaded there, as well as this one will be later today. So please subscribe. I also have other videos, and just check that out. If you'd like to leave me a tip or a gift for today's session, that is always super, super appreciated. Linktree unfortunately took away the tip jar option that I was using before. So now the best way to do that is through PayPal. So if you click on the little $ symbol next to the YouTube symbol, that will take you straight to PayPal. And that's an easy way to leave me a tip of whatever size that you feel comfortable with. Usually it's like $5 to $10, but whatever you feel comfortable with is totally fine. The next one is my email, in case you need to email me. I've got my TikTok and my Instagram on there too. So those are those 5 symbols that you'll see right as you get into my link tree. Also in my link tree is the link to my brand new, in April, watercolor book. So this is called Watercolor Wanderlust. That's me. That's my name right there. I'm an author. I published this book. It is a instructional watercolor book. So it's got 24 full tutorials in there painting landscapes. So it's basically these paint and sips in book form. So you can do it at your own pace. You can create these landscapes. So if you have not already checked out the book, please do so. It is the top link, the top actual link in my link tree, and it'll take you right to all of your buying options. You can also just buy it wherever you buy books. It's available Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, all of that kind of stuff. So I would love to have you check it out if you're interested in these tutorials. If you enjoy these paint and sips, I think you'll enjoy the book. And thank you to everybody who has already bought the book. I appreciate it, and I'm so happy to hear when you guys enjoy the book. Big book goes hard. Thank you so much. Thank you all to everybody who has supported the book already. Also in my link tree, you will see my Etsy shop. I've got lots of paintings, original paintings, prints, postcards, bookmarks, all of that stuff in my Etsy shop. And so you can check that out. I've actually just uploaded, if you were here last week, you did a little review of some art for me. And so I just uploaded these ones that we talked about last week. And so if you'd like early access to those, I've not posted about them. Nobody knows about them yet. They're just uploaded now. So if you'd like to check those out and everything else that's in my Etsy shop, that would mean a lot to me as well. And the last thing I'll talk about in my link tree is my Patreon. So if you'd like to support me more on a monthly basis, that's what Patreon is for. At the very lowest tier in there, it is $3.50 per month to support me, and you get access to a full video tutorial just like this one every month. So you have a little bit of extra art instruction. There are also other tiers in there for you to support me that cost a little bit more, but you get some free art every month as well. So if you'd like to support me on a more monthly basis, you can do that on Patreon. So overall, just check out the link tree if you're willing to support me. That is always super, super appreciated. Again, I would not have the job that I have without you guys supporting me. So I am so appreciative, and thank you for supporting me in any way that you choose to. And if you don't want to support me in any way like that monetarily yet, just liking my videos, helping comment and helping the algorithm, all of that stuff is subscribing to the YouTube channel, all of that stuff is super, super helpful as well. So don't feel like you just have to support me monetarily if you can't, although I do appreciate it because it helps me pay my rent. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get back started with this painting here. So I think the next step is going to be to put the first layer on our trees here. Actually, no, we're going to start with the cliff. So let's go back to our mixing palette here. And I'm going to mix this color in the same pan that I mixed that beach color here. And we're just going to basically make a darker version of that color. So again, that was blue, red, yellow, ochre, and brown. It's basically just a collection of colors until you get to kind of a purplish brown color. in there. And we are still going to water it down, but just not so much. We want this to be more, definitely more concentrated color. Okay, so that looks like that. So again, that was blue, red, yellow, brown. Just mixing a bunch of colors together until you get this kind of neutral color. And then when you have that, we can just kind of paint by numbers style, fill in the cliff that we sketched up here. Okay. And then while we have this color, let's mix a little bit more blue into it. So that'll make it darker and more blue. And this is going to be our shadow color. So I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So definitely more blue. The name is Fluid 100. That's the paper that I'm using. Okay. So then with this blue color, you don't have to wait for the cliff area to dry. We're gonna drop that in, let it kind of mix, and we're gonna create some little shadows kind of on the beach here. So I'm just kind of scrubbing my brush back and forth in mostly horizontal lines. That's kind of the shape that the shadows are in here. And just going along the beach here, this will get covered up later by the trees. So I'm just going along the beach here and adding some little kind of shadows poking out onto the beach. Feel free to add this color into the cliff here too, just to give it a little texture. Okay, so something like that. It looks real weird right now, but I promise it'll make sense later. Okay. All right. So now that the sky and sea sections have had time, ocean section has had time to dry, we can fill in this distant land piece here. Yes, I can show the reference photo again. Again, if you'd like to, I'm sorry, that just came out the wrong way. If you'd like to take a screenshot, you're welcome to. God, you know, sometimes when I just have to talk for an hour, things just don't come out the right way. All right, so with this land section in the distance here, I am going to use the same kind of the pan that I mixed that green color in, and we're just going to mix together blue and green in kind of equal proportions, plus just a little bit of brown. So that's the color. Blue, green, brown. And once you've got that, again, we can just kind of paint by numbers, fill in this section here in the distance. I'm going to try and create a mostly flat horizon line. And then just a little bit of a wavy line on top. And we'll let that dry. We are up to 17,000 likes, which I really appreciate. That's awesome. Good job, everybody. I love your work, new here, and wow, you're super talented. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. Make sure you're taking a sip of whatever you're sipping on. Stay hydrated. And let's see. I think we're gonna go ahead and add, while we wait for this cliff section to dry, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit more texture and detail to the ocean section. So, as long as everybody's ready. So let me know if you're not. If you need a minute or two to paint, I'll let you have that. I can clean up my palette in the meantime. This is so much fun. Oh, good. Glad everybody's having fun. Well, I hope everybody's having fun. Glad you're having fun. Again, if you have any questions about what we're doing, please feel free to put them in the comments. I am happy to answer. Or if you've just got life questions in general, we'll see how good my life question answering is while I'm teaching and painting at the same time. All right. So for this next section, we need to create a color that we can use for the texture of the water. So we are basically going to recreate that bluish green color that we had before. So ultramarine blue and green. And we just want a pretty concentrated color now. So not so much water in the paints now. So mixing those two together, we get same color. Can you move the camera down, please? Sure. I was just kind of trying to show you the mixing palette, but you can see it there. Okay. So blue and green again, same color that we mixed before. And then we're gonna make the other same color that we mixed before, which is blue and green, but more green and a little bit of yellow ochre. Okay. So with these colors, we're going to do a technique called dry brushing, which is a misnomer because watercolor is wet and you still have paint on your brush. So it's not really a dry brush, but the point is that you have a very small amount of paint on your paintbrush and you scrape it along the paper and it creates kind of a texture that's really good for seascapes. So I'm going to show you kind of an example. So I'm using just a tiny bit of paint on my brush here, and if I lightly scrape it along this paper, you get this kind of broken texture. And this is what's good for seascapes because it leaves those little highlights kind of showing through, and in this case it leaves the underpainting showing through. So we get some interesting textures. So we are going to start with that blue-green color. Again, I'm gonna use a larger brush, but I'm gonna kind of scrape a lot of the paint off. You can also use a paper towel to dab the extra paint off. And then, I'll zoom in here so you can see, I'm going to hold my brush mostly horizontal to the paper and just so lightly just start scraping it across the page. Sometimes I'll just miss the page entirely, but I'm just trying to scrape it really, really lightly. That color needs to be darker. So, sorry, hang on. Sometimes the color mixing doesn't happen right the first time. Okay, so again, very, very lightly with that darker color, just scraping our way across the paper. And I'm gonna concentrate this here on the right side and kind of in the spot where that land section is going to be reflecting off the water. And you can see we're getting kind of these horizontal ripples here. I'm going to take these all the way over to this section here. And you can do this as much as you want. I would recommend just kind of going easy because once you get the hang of this technique, it's really addicting and you can really just start adding like way too many ripples because it's just so fun. So just take it easy, make sure you're only adding the ripples that are truly necessary. Okay, so that's what that looks like, and we can just continue layering this until we are happy with how this looks. And so there's kind of a darker section kind of here, and so I'm just going to kind of keep layering this texture in the areas in the reference photo that I see that are a little bit darker. So that's kind of closer to this beach here. Keep layering over the top. Give it a few seconds to let it dry, and then you can go back and keep layering. Okay, when you're ready, you can also switch to that green color that we mixed, which I know I'm gonna have to make a little bit more concentrated, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. And with that color, we can continue these ripples up towards the beach here. And this is just how we're gonna make the beach and the water section kind of flow together, because it's far away, and so it's gonna be hard to like tell any sort of beach there. The water's pretty calm. So we're just gonna use this dry brushing technique to kind of blend those two sections together, just kind of lightly and gently. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that alone. And with a little bit of ultramarine blue, so that's the color that I used for the sky, I'm going to add that same texture out here, just a little bit. But I'm not going to go too far up. Okay, let's see how that works. Okay, we've got kind of some weird things happening over here, so I'm going to try and just even this out a little bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Again, this will become more obvious once we've filled in everything else, but I think that's looking pretty good. So hopefully you're enjoying that little dry brushing technique. That really helps with water, painting water. I really love this technique for that. And the texture turns out differently on different kinds of paper. So this paper is actually pretty smooth for a cold pressed paper. But if I were to go on this Arches paper, this backside is pretty textured, pretty toothy, and do the same technique. It just it has like a different texture. You get more of these like spots and less of the horizontal lines. So you can kind of see the difference there. But it just depends on the texture of the paper. It looks better further away. Yep, exactly. I agree. All right, how's everybody doing? Little check-in. If you're painting with me, are you ready to move on? Do you need another minute? We have just a couple more steps here. We're getting to, let's see, it's 3:42. So we have plenty of time, but we're gonna just get our next steps done. Ready? Ready? Okay, cool. I'm seeing some ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So our next step is going to be to add the greenery to our trees here. So we're going to do this in 2 layers. The first one is going to be a light green, and then we're going to add the shadows with a dark green. So let's mix those colors here. Had kind of an ugly moment, but it really came together. Good. I'm telling you, the watercolor paintings, this one in particular, has quite an ugly stage. And you really just got to look that thing in the face and keep going. All right, get everything cleaned up here. So let's mix up our 2 colors. My water looks like a unicorn puked. Oh, good. Happy to hear that. So our 2 colors are going to be a light green and a dark green. So for our light green, let's start with sap green, whatever green you have in your palette. And then I'm going to mix in some yellow ochre. Just a little bit of ultramarine blue. We're going to water that down a bit. Okay, so there's our light green. And then we've got a dark green. So I'm going to start again with sap green. And then to darken it, I'm going to use ultramarine blue and some brown. And that should give you a very natural looking evergreen green color. So those are our 2 greens. Do your base colors ever get too mixed or muddy to reuse? Nope. The watercolors are very, very concentrated, so even with getting a little bit of that color, of like a different color in there, like you can see I got some in my yellow ochre there. If I just take a clean, damp brush, I can just kind of remove most of that paint. And the paints are so concentrated that having a little bit of a different color in there will not really change how they look. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a medium brush now, and we're going to start with our light green here. So with this light green, I'm going to create kind of a general line of trees here. We're going to fill in just with a flat wash everything on the cliff side and then kind of up to make a little tree line. And then we're going to make some individual trees kind of poking out of that. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to start filling in. Doesn't need to be that careful here. Around the cliff area. All the way out to the edge here. And then I'm going to start creating kind of just a rounded, like almost tree-like, hopefully tree-like silhouette here. This is underneath that scribbly line that I made with my pencil when we first started sketching. And I'm just kind of swirling my brush to create this sort of outline. And this is just that area of trees that's too concentrated to see through. And then with my brush, I'm going to start adding some trees kind of sticking up here from that. So I'm just going to create some vertical lines and then some horizontal lines kind of going down those vertical lines to look like trees. I kind of go in a zigzag pattern and just add these vertical lines, or horizontal lines, I mean. So I'll show that a little bit more close up. So vertical line and then horizontal lines, leaving a little bit of trunk showing. Let's add another one here. These are pretty scraggly trees, so feel free to be messy about this. It helps to kind of be a little bit less neat about it. We can add one where a lot of branches are kind of up top here. And then just bring it down into that green section. And don't really worry about what's going on down here. This is all going to be fixed later, so we don't have to be concerned about that. Just needs to be filled in with a relatively flat wash. So we're just adding our trees in here. As we're doing that, I will just do my plugs one more time for people who are who can listen and paint at the same time. If you'd like to support me, which I very much appreciate because I am a full-time artist, you can go to my link tree, and at the very top there are 5 symbols there. The first one on the left is YouTube. So if you'd like to check out my YouTube channel, that's where these paint and sips get uploaded after they're done on TikTok. So if you'd like to rewatch this, you can go ahead and do that on my YouTube channel. You can also watch all the previous paint and sips there. And I am trying to build up my YouTube channel a little bit, so if you want to subscribe and maybe watch a few of my videos, that would mean a lot to me. I'd appreciate that very much. The second symbol in there is a $, and that is a way that you can leave me a tip or a gift if you are so inclined. That is always super, super helpful. I very much appreciate that. These paint and sips are free, but I do very much appreciate tips. So if you'd like to do that, you can go to that $, section, that $, symbol there, and that will take you to PayPal. The next one is my email in case you need to email me, and then also my TikTok and my Instagram if you need those. If you scroll down in my link tree, you will find, first of all, the link to my book, Watercolor Wanderlust, which is an instructional book. Basically these paint and sip sessions in book form. So again, here is that. If you'd like to check that out, that would mean a lot to me. And you can work through these watercolor tutorials on your own. And Also in my link tree is my Etsy shop. I have lots of paints, postcards, prints, bookmarks, yeah, original paintings, all of that stuff in there. So make sure you check that out too. And if you'd like to support me on a monthly basis, you can do that with Patreon. The first tier in there is only $3.50, and so you're basically supporting me for a 2008 cup of coffee. And you can follow along, and I will give you a monthly tutorial. So you'll get a tutorial just like this one every month that nobody else has access to. And then there are other tiers in there if you'd like to support me for a little bit more each month, and you'll get some additional perks like a print or a bookmark or an original painting if you'd like to support me for a little bit more. So if you'd like to support me just generally, make sure you check out that link tree. That would mean a lot to me, and thank you for whatever way you choose to support me. All right, so we're getting to kind of our last little steps here. Now that we have our light green in here, it's time to start adding some shadows. So I'm going to switch over to my darker green color. And this doesn't need to be just joined for the 2024 coffee level. Thank you so much. Femme fatale, that's funny. Thank you very much for supporting me on Patreon. I appreciate that. I should start using that joke too. 2008 cup of coffee and the 2024 cup of coffee. Okay, so switching over to our dark green here, we are just going to start adding some shadows. So this is going to take just a little bit of imagination, but you're just going to kind of imagine what sections here. Actually, I'm going to switch over so you can see the reference photo too. That'll help. So let's see if I can get these both on camera. So if you can see this section here, we just have a few light areas here, and then a lot of stuff in shadow. So we're going to mostly cover a lot of this. A lot of this is very dark. So we're going to kind of use our imagination and just kind of leave these little sections of light and paint around them with this dark green color. So I'm going to try and do both of those on the same screen, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. I can probably zoom out just a little bit. Yeah, she's a genius. Zoom out a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to start here and just kind of paint around this kind of main highlight section here. And you still want to fill in a couple little dots and stuff in that highlight section. It's not like just straight light green. And you just want to kind of give it a little bit of an interesting outline there. And this makes sense in my head. I'm not sure if this is making sense in anybody else's head, but I'm just trying to kind of this is called negative painting or negative shapes, where you're painting the shadows around the shapes instead of the shapes themselves. So I'm just going to fill in that dark color all the way to the bottom there. You can kind of do some little dots and stuff to kind of just blend those shapes together with the beach. Fill in this section here. I'm going to create kind of a fun little tree outline around the edge here. There are some branches kind of poking out. What color are you using again, please? This is a dark green, so it is sap green mixed with ultramarine blue and brown to darken it. Okay. Where can I purchase this watercolor palette? So you can check it out. All of my art supply recommendations are in my Amazon storefront, so that is also in my link tree. So if you're looking for all of the art supplies that I like, that I've tried before, and that I would recommend, please do check that out there. And this is a Winsor&Newton professional watercolor palette. And I kind of Frankensteined it together, so it's not like you can't buy it with these specific colors, but you can buy the individual pans of Winsor&Newton paints. So you can just do that and buy the pans that you like in the colors that you like. So as I'm getting up here to these taller trees, I am just kind of going over them loosely, and that leaves some of the green there showing through, and that's kind of what I want. I just want like a little bit of a highlight on there. So hopefully this is making sense. As this kind of gets filled in, it'll look a little bit more realistic. You can also switch up this dark color. So if you want, you can kind of every once in a while just add a little bit more blue or a little bit more green. As you keep working, that just kind of helps with the color variation so it doesn't get so two-toned. You can also add some like lighter shadow sections if you want. So if you want to just water down that color a little bit, you can, and then you can create some slightly lighter shadows in there too. So those are just options. Don't feel like you have to do those things, but changing up the color and changing up the value when you're doing something like this does help, especially when it's something kind of two-toned like this. And we are up to 27,000 likes, almost 28. And I really, 28, perfect. You guys are great. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for the likes. Are you posting these lives anywhere? Yes. So the lives are always uploaded to my YouTube channel, usually an hour or two after they're over. It just depends on my download and upload speed. And they are posted to my YouTube channel, which is linked in my bio, so you can check it out there. My handle is Hannah MP Art and Prints, I believe, or just Hannah MP. I really should have that memorized. And yeah, so all the previous paint and sips are up there, and this one will be uploaded there later today after we're done here. This is the part that just gets a little bit hypnotic. We're gonna go a little bit over time. I apologize, but this is pretty much the last step. So just filling in those trees up there. Why did you leave the PNW? I want to move there. So I grew up there. I lived my whole life there until I went to college. And it is a beautiful place. It's the most beautiful place in the world in the summertime, in my opinion. The wintertime, however, is dark, cold, and gray. And it does not snow. It just is raining. And I am a warm weather person. And so when I was in high school, I was like, I'm going to college in California. Like, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. And so that's what I did. I went to college in Southern California. And then after that, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about staying in California and or moving home. But it is expensive to live in either California or Seattle. And so I ended up getting a job out here in Cincinnati and did not know how long I was going to live here. It was just kind of I got a job after college, and in the profession that I went into, which was psychology, those jobs right out of college were pretty rare. And so I was like, I guess I'm moving to Cincinnati. Like, I want this job. So I moved here, and it is affordable, and, it's real humid in the summer, and it is cold in the winter. But the seasonal depression is nowhere near what it was for me when I lived in Seattle. So I really love going home to visit. I love going home to take reference photos. My family still lives there, and I'm actually going home next week. That's why I won't be doing this paint and sip next weekend. And I go home, fairly frequently. But it is, the winter time there is just awful for me. I know some people like it. Some people really like the dark and the cold. But I am not one of those people. So that's why. It's probably more information than you asked for, but I'm very proud to be from there. I love getting to go home and visit. But I can afford to be a full-time artist here in Cincinnati, and I don't know that I could in Seattle. And so that's a big thing too. And yeah, just can't deal with the weather. going to follow because I want to learn how to do that water painting. Perfect. Please do follow. Welcome. This tutorial will be uploaded to my YouTube channel later, so feel free to follow my YouTube channel as well. That's linked in my bio too. I'm in Canton, Ohio. Nice. Right by the Hall of Fame. I didn't know really what to expect when I moved here. I had been out to Ohio before, but never really considered living here until I got a job here. But I really like Cincinnati, actually. It's a cool city. There's like enough to do. It's a good size. And yeah, I'm happy to live here. I've also been here for 5 years, so I've kind of, created my life, and I have friends and all that kind of stuff. When I first moved here, it was a little bit more difficult to, it was COVID, so that's part of it too. Moved to Seattle from Arizona. Much prefer the weather here to the heat of Phoenix. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would not be able to I would not be able to live in Arizona. I love to visit Arizona. I've been to Arizona many times, but I would not live there. That is too hot for me. Have you been to Kings Island? No, I have not. I have driven by Kings Island. I have not been to Kings Island. I don't have kids, and I don't, that's just kind of not a thing that I'm gonna just go do by myself necessarily. The weather isn't as bad in Spokane. Yeah, but it's Spokane. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Spokane's nice. I've been there. Cold, though. Cold in the winter. All right, so I've pretty much gotten my greenery kind of fleshed out here. So I'm just kind of finishing up these little details here. Don't be afraid to use black for shadows. Yeah, absolutely. I don't like to use black for shadows. I really prefer to use other colors to darken up my regular colors. I've got Payne's Gray in my palette, which is a very dark color. And so if I need to, I use that. But the style of painting that I do, I just prefer to use other colors instead of black to add my shadows. That's just personal preference. Not housing, but the city in general. Absolutely. There's just always a little rivalry between Eastern and Western Washington. Can't help it. I was brought up that way. All right, so our last little detail here is going to be adding some rocks and little textures to the beach. So let's go back to our palette. Final color that we're going to mix up is like a similar color to what we have mixed already. We're going to just start with brown and blue and see where that gets us. Kind of equal portions of each. And then, yeah, I think I am going to add the red and yellow like I did before. So same kind of color scheme that we were doing before, the red, blue, brown, yellow. Just kind of mix those colors together until you get whatever color you want to use for some rocks. I'll give you some freedom on that. And we're going to add some water there too. We don't want this to be too concentrated. And then with that color, we just need to add a little texture to the beach. So I'm just going to add some rocks, some little lines. And then if you want to, you can let those dry as is, or you can use a paper towel and kind of blot them. And that will give you a little bit of extra texture there and also just pick up that extra paint. Cost of the PNW keeps me from moving, and I'm in Chicago. Yeah, I'm telling you, it is expensive. Want to move to Seattle area. Yeah, you need a good job to live there. It is nuts. And my family, just like, my grandparents and stuff, have all been born and raised in Seattle. And it's just so different now. Like, in terms of, like, being able to afford it there once you're an adult and not living with your parents anymore. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. So we're just adding a little texture to the beach here. Nothing super, you know, nothing really that interesting. Just a little, just so that it doesn't look like a little slab of nothing. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to, she says that she adds one more thing. I'm just gonna kind of blend the beach with the water there with a watered down brush. All right. There we go. Okay, stop touching it. All right, so I think that marks the end of our painting session together here. I am going to sign this painting with just like a, maybe I'll just use like Payne's Gray down here at the bottom, and my detail brush. And I'll take it off of the watercolor block here for you just to show you how to do that in case you're wondering. So I use I like the watercolor better than the photograph. Oh, good. I'm glad. So glad to hear that. So I use my little palette knife here and I just slide that in between this page and the next one on the unbound side. And then I use it to break the glue on the sides. And then I am left with a small strip of glue on each side of the paper, but I just use a ruler and an X-Acto knife and just trim that off. So you can see the little kind of line of glue there. I just use an X-Acto knife and trim that off, and then it leaves me with a nice clean 6x8 painting. All right, so there's our painting. I'm gonna go through my stuff one more time. I hope you enjoyed this watercolor session. If you did, make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Make sure you check out that link tree that I was talking about in my bio. Again, the top 5 symbols here are my YouTube channel, so this paint and sip will be uploaded to YouTube later today, so you can check it out later. If you missed a step or you want to try it again or you didn't paint with me, whatever, all the previous paint and sips are uploaded there as well. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you check out the YouTube. If you'd like to leave me a tip or a gift, again, that is super, super appreciated. If you are willing to do that, you can click the little $ and that'll take you right to PayPal, and that's the way that you can leave me a tip. If you'd like to send me an email, you can. That's the 3rd symbol, TikTok and Instagram, 4th and 5th symbol. Please do follow me on Instagram as well. And if you want to post your painting from today, if you painted along with me, feel free to put it on your story and tag me, same handle as TikTok, and I will do a little repost on my story of all of the paintings that we've done today. If you don't want to post your painting publicly, you're welcome to just DM me on Instagram. I will check it out there. Then if you scroll down in my link tree, you can find my watercolor book link, my Etsy shop link, and my Patreon link. Please do check all of those 3 out if you'd like to. Again, I just, this is my job, and I appreciate anybody who supports my art, checks out the paintings, all of that good stuff. And the paint and sip will be back not next weekend, but the weekend after. I will be out of town next weekend, so we will skip a week and then we will come back. I always announce these paint and sips on Thursdays, and they are almost always on Saturdays at this time. So you can always check out on my page if I have one on the Saturday. And otherwise, I will see you next time, and thank you so much.